Hey, it's Mars, and for everybody new, no, I'm not wearing the same shirt 3 videos in a row. I record 3 videos in one day because I am actually built like that. So let's get straight into it. We're talking about understanding nonverbal cues today. So, why do nonverbal cues matter? Well, tell me this. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody is saying one thing, but you feel like they're saying another? Well, I'll tell you, it's because they are saying another thing, except they're saying it with their body language. Now, nonverbal cues, we'll talk about facial expressions, body language, I think it's called proxemics, vocal cues, everything having to do with unwritten speech and unspoken speech, because that is the language of authenticity. So, I already defined what nonverbal cues are, give you a long list of things that they are. So I'm going to give you examples in everyday life. Now, let's say, for instance, you're with your friends, right? And while you're with your friends, you guys are out, and they're bullying one of the other friends in the friend group. It happens all the time, especially in boyfriend groups. We all have that one guy who is just the shit of the litter, who everybody picks on. Now, verbally, that one guy could be saying, it's okay, it's just what happens. He's saying that he doesn't really care. But deep down, you can tell it's affecting him. This is a small example, and it's just one that I use to kind of build a connection with you because I know that you've gone through this and you can kind of see the importance and I can kind of highlight the characteristics. But things like this happen on a larger scale, especially if you're trying to meet a partner or something. People don't always talk with their words, and you need to understand how people talk with their bodies and their facial expressions and their tones so that you can truly understand people and start to build that deeper connection. I talked about the type of nonverbal cues: facial expressions, body language, vocal cues, and proxemics. And let me explain proxemics because it might not make sense just from a verbal standpoint. Proxemics are basically territory and space. Now, me and you, we're a decent distance apart, partly because the camera is a decent distance apart. But if you were to see, let's say for instance, you're at school and you see a guy hitting on a girl, most likely, if the girl is open to the approach, her body language will be open and she'll be facing toward him at a close enough distance. Not too close, but definitely not far away. Now, if she's not open, she will be facing away, closed body language, probably closed arms, and she'll be trying to back away. She'll be trying to gain a farther proximity away from the guy. Just another example, just so that you could see what proxemics are and understand it with a mental picture. Let's decipher some of the common nonverbal cues. When people respond in a higher tone, it's almost like they're looking for a response. And when people end their sentence, and let me rephrase that. When people end their sentence in a higher tone, it's because they're looking for a response. Now, if they end their sentence in a lower tone, it's almost like they're saying a statement, something that is fact. And these will either make you trust them more because they're ending it in a lower tone, so you can kind of see it as fact, or it'll prompt you to ask another question. For instance, let's say I'm telling you that water is green. Even if you know water isn't green, it almost for a split second, you kind of think water is green. Now, if I say, is water green? You're more likely to question it, be like, well, I don't know, is water green? Sometimes if you're at a lake, sometimes if there's bacteria, I don't know, I'm not a marine biologist. Eye contact. Now, eye contact can mean a lot of things. So I just put it down as engagement because more likely, if you're talking to somebody and they're making eye contact with you, they're engaged in the conversation. Now, based on the context, if you do something weird, you'll still have eye contact, but you might get a different facial expression. Like, let's say I say something like brain rot. You know, like those kids that try to act funny but aren't funny, and they say shit like
Level 5
"Skibidi
got
toilet
Riz,
Ohio
Livy done
rig."
rizzing
I'm
up
not
baby
putting that in
Gronk.
the video. I'm not putting that in the video. People, they'll say shit like bro thinks he's the Rizzler or shit like that because they think it's funny. And you see all the weird facial expressions, they're all thinking, who the fuck is this guy? Basically, they think he's a weirdo. He is a weirdo. Now, nonverbal cues have different meanings based on the different cultures. For instance, in America, if you wink at somebody, it's flirtatious. But in Japan, if you wink somebody, it's a sign that you're trying to start a fight. So all of these really depend on the culture you're in. Like in America, you're not going to go up to somebody random, greet them, and kiss them on the cheek. But in France and some other places in Europe, you do that. Gay shit. How do you interpret nonverbal cues based on the context? So we're going to do a little experiment. Just me and you right now in the video. Let's say, for instance, I start facing you. I want you to just start talking about something that's happened in your life recently. What is my body language telling you? My body language is telling you that I am uninterested. Well, how do you know that? Because I'm facing away. I look I look disinterested, unengaged, disengaged. I look disengaged in my facial expression, and my hand is on my face, also, which is on my knee. I don't care. I do care, but in that example, I did not care. And you can tell based off of all those things, based off all of the categories that I told you about for nonverbal cues. So, in order to truly decipher any social situation through nonverbal cues, you have to go through and break down each individual one, which makes things a lot easier. Instead of trying to get a whole sentence, you just break down the words. Excuse me, I burped. You just break down the words and form the sentence yourself. Now that you know exactly what they are and how to decipher them and interpret them, let's figure out how to improve them. Because chances are, if you clicked on this video, you didn't even know what nonverbal cues were or how to take advantage of them. So first, if you truly want to start improving your nonverbal cues, it is imperative that you break the fourth wall and become the main character. The first step is self-awareness. The more that you could see it in yourself, the better you could see it in other people. And that's the same thing for anything. Let's say, for instance, you're driving and you just learned how to square your turns. The more that you're practicing squaring your turns at intersections and things like that, the more you'll notice that other people are squaring their turns or other people are not. Same thing with a car. If you've been talking about a car, this happened to me recently. I was talking about an Audi or something. And then it seems like everywhere I look, now all I see are Audis. They were always there. You were just never aware of it. And that's self-awareness explained. Also, active listening, except with your eyes, if I can explain that correctly. So, of course, active listening to what the person is saying, but you have to actively be engaged in how the person is being as well. Take that other example when you were telling me about all the stuff that was happening and I was super disengaged and I didn't look like I cared and stuff like that. You can actively listen and tell that bro doesn't care. So, what do? Well, you leave, obviously, but using that active listening, or I guess you can call each of these categories a key of sorts. And deciphering the puzzle using the key, you can make better decisions. Practice using progressive overload. I talked about progressive overload in my How to Become a Better Public Speaker video. And basically, you practice to yourself, you practice to your family, and then you practice to your friends, and you record yourself. And then you keep improving and you journal on it. Which, I mean, it's pretty simple. No one wants to do it, but if you really want to, think about it. What is worse? The pain of progressive overload or the pain of not having friends and being lonely and feeling sad? I don't know, that progressive overload seems like it hurts. So, to recap, use all the types: facial expressions, nonverbal facial expressions, body language. Did I say facial expressions twice? Holy shit. Facial expressions, body language, proxemics, and tone of voice to decipher what people are saying when they're not actually talking through their body language, because it's what people really think. If you want to learn how to read minds, use body language, because people are the most honest when they're expressing themselves. If you're interested in breaking out of your social shell and into the social realm, Click that top link in the description. Free coaching call. Hit me up. You talk to me about your problems. I give you solutions immediately at no cost. Do all the things. Press all the buttons. Share the shit. Like the video. Because oh, never mind. Smash. Absolutely smash it. Raw dog that like. Fucking prone bone that like button. I can't say that. My mom watches my videos. Demolish that like button with a hammer and a sledgehammer. 2 sledge from Rainbow Six. I'm ranting. See ya.